When it comes to property rights, the notion of causality can be very important in identifying what property rights exist, what their limits are, and how they fit together. Causality is a very simple concept, common sense in fact. If we see some accident happen or some event on television or something, or as we're walking down the street, a car, bursts out in flames, we will think to ourselves, what caused that? Because it's not normal for cars just to burst into flames, and we really don't want to be associated with any of that do. And so understanding causality is vital. In fact, it's the cornerstone of science. These days, it seems to be very popular for motor cars to be catching on fire because they've got batteries in them, big batteries made out of lithium and so on, that does catch fire and cause an awful lot of damage and sink ships and all sorts of dreadful things. We want to understand the causality of that before we put ourselves into the inconvenience of maybe being on a sinking ship. I recently travelled to Tasmania on the Spirit of Tasmania. They would not put battery cars in the hold of the ship. Why? Because they believed, and there was a lot of evidence, so they knew that battery cars cause fires by bursting into fire by themselves. Let's look at how causality works, though, in detail. There are always 4 causes responsible for a thing's existence. Sometimes they're not obvious, sometimes they take a bit of thinking about, but they're always there. When we look at anything, we'll stay with the battery cars for a moment. They're made out of raw materials. Steel, lithium, glass, plastic, copper. Quite a number of different raw materials go into making a motor car. That's the material cause of the motor car. If those raw materials were combined in a different way, we might have some other machine, we might have a computer, we might even have just a useless work of art. So the raw materials, while they're the cause of the motor car, they're not the whole thing, because those raw materials have to be put together in a very precise way. The precise way that we put the raw materials together to make it something distinct is the form or the design, the shape, the blueprint of the thing. And so if we take all that steel, copper, rubber, lithium, whatever, and put it together in a particular way, then it'll turn out being a car. And some manufacturers put the raw materials together in better ways than others, and so the form of the design is superior, or conversely inferior. And so we're very interested in the quality of the formal cause, the design, and we select things like computers, motor cars, whatever. We're also looking at the quality of the raw materials. Are they made out of first quality steel or what have you, or some rubbish stuff? Who knows? So we have 2 causes. However, the shape of a motor car, the design of the motor car, the blueprint of the motor car, doesn't simply get into the motor car by itself. You don't find random chemicals, in a swamp or what have you, suddenly bubbling up and producing an oak tree or something. There needs to be something to go and cause that. Usually to make an oak tree, we have to have a lot of things causing it. Part of it is what's built into oak tree seeds. When we're talking about things that are produced by humans, for instance, we can say the maker, the efficient cause, is the people involved. If I write a poem, dig a hole, build a motor car, I'm the builder, the writer, the inventor of the thing. Maybe the inventor of the formal cause, the shape. I might design some new way of building a wall for a house. So I've invented the formal cause. I might collect myself some building materials, and then I'll go about with my hammer and nails and actually put the thing together. So I've got the material cause for the wall or the building I'm going to build. I've got the formal cause, which is the design, the shape that I want to build it. And I go out with my hammer and nails as the maker, the efficient cause, and actually make it. The last cause is a little bit obscure, but it's very, very important. In fact, it's considered by people like Aristotle to be the most important cause. It's the need for the thing. If I go out and make, let's say, a chair, that's fine. Why do I make a chair? Because I want a piece of furniture to sit on, either for myself or my visitors. Okay. If I didn't need the chair, either for myself or for my friends, or even to put into a shop and sell, I wouldn't make it. So the final cause is actually quite critical. And the other thing about the final cause is that if there is a need for chairs, it doesn't actually say what the materials are going to be used in it. It could be a metal chair, a wooden chair, an aluminium chair, whatever. Or even the design, whether it's all in one piece or many different pieces, whether it folds up or it doesn't. Many, many different designs. But it starts with the final cause, which is the need for a chair. And the need might become more specific. I might need a wooden chair. I might need a folding chair to go camping with or what have you. Now, the final cause actually defines how the other causes are driven. Last thing I want to say about causes is that they have tremendous advantages in working out the allocation of property rights. Because as I look at something, let's say my camping chair that I've built, I can proportion the property rights in that chair to my efforts in putting the raw materials together, maybe the value of the design, I've either bought myself or found in the common domain, or actually purchased. Okay, and when I look at that, I say, okay, I want to build a camping chair to go camping with, and I might say, well, how do I do that? Well, you know, I hear that there is a magazine for campers around, and if I buy that magazine, it'll have the design in it. And so I go along to wherever, and I buy myself the magazine. So now I've got the design. I've paid for the design because I bought the magazine. I go down to the local hardware store and buy some timber and maybe some canvas. So I've bought the material cause, and that's also comes with a cost. And then I put a few hours in my workshop as the maker, and out comes a camping chair. And so I could say, well, that camping chair, I can distribute the property rights in it to the raw materials, the design, and me. And often in commerce, that's what happens. All related to property rights. And those property rights are natural. They exist in the nature of the way the universe is. Many of them, in fact, almost all of them, originate in human labour. Obviously, the maker is going to be spending a bit of labour doing whatever they're going to do to make the chair. Somebody has to sit and scratch their head and draw some pictures and maybe do a couple of experimental designs to get the formal design, so it'll be another person. The raw material, to go and buy the timber from the hardware store, they have to cut it and dress it and all the rest of it. And so it appears that those different causes tend to be human. But if you actually take them apart, and the final cause is also human, the desire for the thing, I want to go camping. But it's curious because when we look closely at the material cause, while I might buy the timber from the hardware store would have bought it from a timber mill, the timber, and the timber mill would have taken it out of the forest, and there the train of property rights starts to get complicated, because while there might have been some timber cutter who actually brought the timber, the wood out of the forest and then sliced and diced it and so on. The very beginning of that is the gum tree growing in the forest. Who owns it? How do they own it? And finding a natural owner for that, while we have natural owners for all of the other causes, and at least part of the material cause, because the raw materials as I see them aren't simply the virgin trees in the untouched forest. They're nice, carefully cut and dressed pieces of milled timber. So there's a lot of labour that goes between the gum tree growing in the forest and the piece of timber that I'm using to build my camping chair. So there's distribution there. Again, it comes down to cause. Okay. And I think there's an illustration there about a farmer who clears some land. And that sort of takes us closer to land property, because the farmer has a natural ownership in the value of the clearing. But does that cause him to own the land itself? We can say he may need exclusive rights to protect his property, exclusive occupancy rights to protect the value of his clearing, the benefit that brings to him in growing the sheep or planting some crops or what have you. But even the exclusive rights to occupancy doesn't mean that he necessarily owns the land. That's a useful puzzle to give thought to.